F5 Wednesday, we are starting off our NGINX series. This is the first webinar in a 5-part NGINX series. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we'll be discussing NGINX today about what is NGINX, kind of an intro to NGINX, what can it do for me, for my agency, and then go into API protection, and then we're going to follow up the last week with a lab, and that'll be a 2-hour session. So I think there was a little bit of a discrepancy on the invite. So if you saw the invite for the October 28th, that's actually a 2-hour session. So today we've got Doug Turner, who's our solutions architect for NGINX that covers the federal space. He'll be talking about this, and he'll be doing a few of the other webinars later on as well. So Doug, if you want to go ahead and hit the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the previous topics. The problem. What does NGINX solve, and then what the some of the solutions. And if you want to go ahead and hit the next one, go ahead and fast forward again. Here's some of the previous topics. If you want to go back one more, sorry, Doug. Here's some more of the previous topics that we've covered. We've talked about WAF, OWASP top 10, AWAF versus ASM, bot defense. We've talked about shape, and then the last series we did prior to this one was mainly around automation, around Terraform, Ansible Tower specifically, and some APM automation. All those are on YouTube. Right now, everything we do is recorded. We put it on our F5 Government Solutions. There's a link there to get to it. So if you aren't able to attend one of the sessions, you want to go back and check it out, go to that link right there. I'll put it in the chat so you have access to it. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to you, Doug.
Well, greetings all. For everyone that's on the East Coast, good afternoon. And for everyone that's possibly on the West Coast, good morning. My name is Douglas Turner, and I am an NGINX engineer, and I support the federal teams. That means, from a standpoint for you, that I am your federal actual point of contact for anything that is NGINX. So today, what we're going to talk about is, from a summary standpoint, what is NGINX? We would start it off with, as you can tell, by talking to you about what is truly the problem statement, why is this beneficial to you as a customer, and we'll move through from there to actually discussing exactly what all the different aspects of NGINX as far as NGINX Plus. We will move through some of the different actual use cases, and not to take the thunder from any of the other actual presenters that will go through the other 4 areas. I will to a little bit allude to each one of theirs. And at the end of this particular actual session, I will then do a demo, a very brief demo of an NGINX instance that is set up between 4 web servers and 2 load balancers in HA proxy mode. As housekeeping, I will present through. Once we have actually done with the actual demo, there will be about a 15 to 20 minute question and answer period, which we will then open up for everyone. And at that point, all questions can be taken. All right, so let's get started. First, let's talk about the application landscape as a whole. So the future is cloud, we know that, right? So out of the respondents of this particular survey, there was over 87% of customers are adopting multi-cloud. The interesting thing about that is that 0 of those customers can report the number of applications that they truly have running with confidence in the cloud. And last of all, because of the fact that most of these shops have been actually set up to be private, or at least setting in their own data centers, a lot of privacy and compliancy pieces of this haven't been taken completely into effect. Talk about DevOps is rising. So 65% show that their organizations are expanding, and they're going to move to pushing more DevOps methodologies into their lines of businesses as of 2021. And of course, CEOs, 70% will use APIs to interconnect automation tools. And last of all, DevOps is critical to their organizations and their agility at this point in time. And last of all, technology is changing. 85% of new apps workloads will be new applications, and 95% of those will be container based. We already see that 80% that APIs are outgrowing regular HTML-based traffic, pretty much 83%, 17%. And last of all, analytics and API management across the environment is difficult. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So customers have several services along an application path. There's no different for any one which we deal with. You have everything from the development of your code to where or how, what OS that you're using, and also application service that you're going to use to actually deploy those, as well as all of the network actual functionalities that are needed in order to actually expose that particular application to your customer. So in the case of the federal government, that every public, everyone that is population is a customer. So your particular actual needs become a whole lot heavier than most other actual customers we deal with, because of the fact that not only do you deal with the fact that you have a very large and expansive actual customer base, but you also have necessities to actually protect that data and to also serve that data as fastly as possible. So no different than any other enterprise, the federal government has the same needs. But as we go down and we start, as all of our customers are starting to move down that path, what we're finding is that lots of different vendors, lots of different application architectures, lots of different management, most of all, a lot of different actual configurations. And all of that leads to limited orchestration across the data path, because of the fact that now it's the case of it's taking you a lot longer in order to build the actual overall architecture than it is to start actually learning and actually managing the architecture. Which leads to the bigger point, that when you have this much actual separation and you have these many tools and all of that has to be integrated, it's hard to pinpoint the issues which you're running into. So how does that all culminate into the three mistakes? Well, first, a lot of times how that starts is by infrastructure lock-in, using a specific actual customer, using a specific vendor, and there is no portability. Then, of course, there's security and the network bottlenecks. In the case of agencies, in the case of most of our large customers, and especially service provider, we call it a bottleneck, but it's a necessity. You are in a case where being able to comply with the necessary security actual governance, as well as being able to actually build a network that's stable, is not a case of where you can actually flip one for the other. So you have to have those. And then last of all, because of this, also tool sprawl. Lots of different vendors bring a lot of different tools, different visibility packages, different ways to configure. And that means also on the back end, it becomes very, very complex to actually manage, as well as becomes higher cost based upon how many people you have to have on board for the different resources in which you're actually trying to actually support, and also the training as well. So NGINX and F5 as a company looks at NGINX as a complement to the actual to F5. And how we do that is that by reducing the amount of tools, by basically taking what you were doing in multiple actual different application tools or just overall infrastructure tools, and kind of condensing it into single platforms that can support you. So I won't stay very long on this particular slide, but pretty much to show you that what we have the capability of doing is take you from code to customer by being able to give you a platform that can be a mix of different microservices. As we keep going along throughout this presentation, we will break down the different actual areas as far as microservices or different support in which the NGINX Plus platform can support you on. So what is all this for? To empower teams to manage their infrastructure and to be able to give them what they need to go along the actual code, the customer path. So from everything from what F5 does well, which is very advanced actual local L4, L7 load balancing, advanced web and firewalling and orchestration, to what NGINX does from an actual control plane, and also what we do from a cloud infrastructure standpoint, melding into a solution that can actually support your needs, regardless if it's going to be actual hybrid cloud or if it's going to be multi-cloud. So what is our vision? One platform from code to customer, being able to support you from a visibility analytics, multi-vendor orchestration, and also being able to give you platform control planes, as well as you know, from what we do for a living, giving you the data plane actual support in what you need. Everything from, in the case of NGINX, everything from application server, all the way up through being able to support you even with actual web application firewall. And of course, above all that, we would talk also about controller. Very little from my standpoint, because I don't want to steal Michael Coleman's fire. He will be giving you a complete actual discussion on it. So the solution, and how does this solution help me as a customer? So first, let's start with the drivers. So vast majority of businesses are undergoing digital transformation. We know that 80% of the customers that we've spoken to are, with very few that aren't. However, to also go along with that, the applications are essential for most of these companies. So you look at this particular, that from a actual, it provides competitive advantage, 36%, but from an essential for business standpoint, over 62%. So our customers, as well as you know, with being actual one of our customers, are adapting to change, responding to threats, and maximize the competitive advantage in which they can have in the marketplace. Agencies are doing the same through less competitive advantage to more streamlining their actual support and moving their actual workload so that they can actually support a larger group of actual people. But still, same actual premise that it would be if this was part looked at from competitive advantage. Then there's three major trends. There's the apps moving from, meaning that most of our customers are moving from a virtualized actual architecture into a container and microservice architecture. As they move along that path, there's also the customer choice critical to their application strategy, meaning that, are they going full cloud? Are they going to do hybrid cloud? Are they moving to a multi-cloud actual architecture? And then last of all, infrastructure services and ops decisions are being made decentralized. And what we mean by that is that it is moving to the lines of business. In the case of infrastructure in the agency standpoint, or within the DoD or federal as a whole, there would be the overlying, and then there will be the decentralization of where certain actual departments have control more of what they do, although everything still culminates centrally. But then that comes to a few problems. One, we're looking at a lot of tools aren't keeping up with the application architectures that are coming along with loss of visibility. Of course, with limited tools to manage those governance across those cloud, against the different cloud aspects or different infrastructures in which our customers are moving to. And last of all, the responsibility move to the lines of business means that there's decentralization and there's customization, which a lot of times means that governance has to be just as flexible. So moving from all that, how do we get all of this back to what is NGINX? So NGINX Plus is, to put it briefly, is enterprise solution with dynamic modules. We have the ability to be, we are enterprise class visibility with over 200 different metrics. We have the ability to give you JOT authentication, native open ID, active health checks, and service discovery, as well as another host of things, but mainly the dynamic reconfiguration and zero downtime. We are the Swiss Army knife of the F5 actual tool sources. So we have the capability of being multiple things within the same architecture. So what that does as far as tool sprawl is that it eliminates multiple tools by actually using one central configuration type. It also gives you the capability of knowing that we can be deployed as different types of microservice applications. And now we'll get into a little bit further of that. So NGINX as a platform. We look at it as being actually, we have control plane, we have data plane. So from a control plane standpoint, once again, NGINX controller. This is where you will find where you'll be able to pull and extract centralized analytics. Also, you will have centralized control of your actual infrastructure. And last of all, being able to meld all that into actually being able to put policy across all of it. So not only does security actually is taken care of, but also at that particular point, even just network policy and how the application behaves. So that instead of having the different silos, you've centralized so that you have a more collaborative look at what your architecture looks like. Then we get into the data plane. In the data plane, we can act as a load balancer, content cache, WAF, API gateway, as well as we can act as a polyglot application server, being able to be deployed either as a web server or multiple types of application services. And being that we are very lightweight, you're looking at compressed, we're about 2.4 meg. And on disk, a little bit over 100 meg, that we fit into very easily into cloud infrastructures. And we are born in a cloud-based application. So meaning that all of the necessary cloud init or other standards in which you use to actually deploy, we work seamlessly in those particular environments. So how NGINX helps. We basically centralize and give you a central area for your tool sets. And we'll give you the ability to put us in the middle of your actual DevOps pipeline in order to actually be part of the automation of that particular infrastructure. We have the ability, once I said before, to give you different views. So we can do that based on personas. And we look at controller. From NetOps, SecOps, giving everyone the view in which is necessary and the necessary actual collaborative actual control that's necessary. Then one of the better things of actual controller is the ability to give self-service. Being able to build a base application that has all the necessary policy that's already built into it, and allowing those particular clients to be able to actually deploy those based on the governance in which NetOps, SecOps, DevOps is given ahead of time. And one of the larger problems as far as tool sprawl and at least different vendors is the integration of visibility. We have the capability of integrating into your into your management ecosystem by providing a actual REST API, so that we actually send you northbound all the necessary actual metrics and statistics that you can actually build upon to know that the actual network is actually behaving correctly. We integrate into DevOps pipelines so that you can actually have NGINX actually already statically set as a specific type of actual implementation, be it an ADC, be it WAF, or be it API management at that particular point. And one of our other products that is coming in is Service Mesh, giving you the capability to do mutual TLS as well. So for the main part, NGINX gives you the ability to have one central instance that has the ability to work as multiple microservices and works upon multiple in any infrastructure.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add to that, Doug. I think we're talking to a lot of big IP customers here. And in that case, there is a lot of overlap with NGINX and Big IP. Big IP it's got a lot more features, but NGINX is a much more lighter weight, as Doug has described. So where we really see NGINX playing a big, if it's not clear enough, is in these containerized environments, these environments you can quick spin up times, these kind of, more modern application environments. And that's really what we're typically talking about here with NGINX. So the use case is, and if you may have seen before, where the other diagram, you had Big IP and you had NGINX in the more containerized, more modern application environment. So the two things can coexist in the same environment, just depending on your particular use cases. Yeah, we're going back to that slide. So you're going to get some of the same capabilities in NGINX that you would in Big IP, but just in these smaller environments, or more, I say probably better said, Doug, more modern application environments in the container.
More decoupled. Exactly. Giving you the ability that if it's not necessary to bring in a full physical or full service actual ADC, we take care of the load balancing, we take care of reverse proxy, and we can do that within as Ryan said, within a more cloud-centric actual environment. So that it's not necessarily in those environments where you still need the same capabilities, but you don't need you don't have the capability of bringing in physical infrastructure to do so. So this makes it very portable. This makes it very flexible for you. So back, sorry about that. Yeah, so different actual implementations for NGINX. First, we can be deployed as a web server. Interesting enough that when you first actually bring up an NGINX instance, it comes up as a web server first. So automatically lightweight and very easy to configure from the beginning. Then of course we can act as a reverse proxy server for your applications as well, and as a load balancer, ADC, and a content cache as well. So we can do static and we can do dynamic actual content caching. And as a polyglot application server, being able to support both Go, Perl, PHP, Ruby, Node.js, multiple, and at the same time, multiple versions on the same server. And we have to get into the one thing. We are a WinBar, have been an open source company. So there is a open source community that is part of NGINX. And with that, there is a NGINX open source instance. But we want to talk to you real quick about the compare and contrast to what you get from going from open source to NGINX Plus. What they have in common: load balancer, which you can also do HTTP, TCP, UDP, and also layer 7 request routing, content cache, also web server and reverse proxy, security controls, again, rate limiting, monitoring of web application. But where NGINX Plus is definitely is the better actual platform, we add things such as session persistence, cache purge APIs, active health checks, also the ability to do security and JOT authentication with OpenID Connect for single sign-on, extended status metrics, dynamic reconfiguration API gateway as well, and high availability with being able to do HA, and also key value store for circumstances of having actual keys, and also search being dynamically checked. APIs. From code to customer, we have the capability of giving you full API management service with our API gateway. Our API gateway is decoupled as far as the architecture is concerned, where most API gateways have traditionally have both data plane and also any data plane actual communications has to actually go through the control plane. We have decoupled that. So whereas data plane, separate from control plane, align faster and more efficient actual performance out of the actual API gateway. Oops, sorry. And let's talk about a few key capabilities of our API gateway. Things such as API definition, authorization, rate limiting. We have dashboards also, and just say for developers, have a actual outside developer portal. All of these different capabilities, although for part of our API management, are part of also our controller infrastructure. So for a lot of this, we have this available as a standalone, but when it comes to the dashboards and a lot of the developer portals and those pieces, all of that is part of controller. And one of the more interesting things about the NGINX Plus actual instance is that it also has the capability of being a Kubernetes ingress controller. Some of the benefits: we have flexible app services for Kubernetes, including OpenShift router environments, consistency across pod deployments for rapid code to customer, and last of all, scale apps with higher performance. How we do that pretty much is with our capabilities. There's the NGINX Plus feature capabilities that are that are inherently that are also with the ingress controller. And then also there's the additional actual metrics that we collect. And also we could do dynamic reconfiguration endpoints without reloading the instance. So in all, NGINX Plus fits into a modern application architecture, as Ryan alluded to. We give the ability to be flexible, lightweight, and at the same time, very much agile in the way in which we can be deployed. So because this single instance has the ability to be multiple different types of microservices, in some cases, a lot of them at the same time, it allows you to actually to basically work around not having as much tool sprawl. And at the same time, being able to be capable to actually still support the different infrastructures in which you're deploying. But also want to talk about one other actual product other than that. That is our F5 NGINX App Protect. F5 NGINX App Protect is our WAF that you can deploy as part of a flex, or as far as a cloud-based service. It has this high performing security, it has security protection with young signatures, and also is trusted signatures from F5 that is built upon. Of course, because it's part of the NGINX actual portfolio, simple CI/CD integration, and also rapid feedback loop for security remediation within it. And last of all, it's backed by F5 support as well. And one of the other things I should say about it, one of the intangibles about going from open source to NGINX Plus is the fact that you have full support from F5 24/7. And also we have professional services to help with very complex actual implementations.
And I'll add on that, the App Protect is going to be a webinar here in a couple weeks. I'll be doing that one. And the it's essentially a subset of what ASM has today. So if you're familiar with ASM and you take a look at NGINX App Protect, and in that webinar, I'll discuss this in detail. The features are there's a subset of those same features that are in ASM today. It's not everything. Like I said, it is a subset, but there is a lot of the features that are in ASM today are in App Protect as well. And those can be run, like I said, in a containerized environment. So if you have a need for WAF to be done inside the containerized environment, or maybe a more lightweight version of ASM, you want to take a look at NGINX App Protect.
So that brings us to the last of the NGINX App Protect slides. Pretty much coming to us to a actual summary of strong app security, built for modern application, CI/CD friendly. And we have different deployment options, showing you that we can do this as being App Protect being actually part of the software load balancer. It could be part of an API gateway. Also, it could be part of the ingress controller as well. Or we can come all the way down and we can be part of the microservice actual deployment internally to that particular infrastructure. So it's very flexible as far as what deployment model you wish to use in order to actually use the WAF. And last of all, we're getting into controller. So the thing is speed and agility. So what we're seeing in fast is divided IT, right? DevOps, NetOps, security, testing are all different actual silos, right? It works, but it's very expensive, right? And it's also slow, it's not high velocity to do so. At that point, it's very slow and it doesn't meet an agile actual infrastructure. Then more agility, but more resources, right? NGINX comes and we have this very nice flexible product, but at the same time, takes a little while to get everybody up to speed, and we set the risk of creating shadow IT to do so. So how do we actually avoid all this? NGINX controller. It's app-centered. It's self-service. Most of all, it fits into a CI/CD pipeline and most agility and most efficient, right? So it allows you to actually centralize a lot of your deployments, as well as giving collaboration by giving multiple views. So I've kind of been culminating onto this by all the other slides, but now getting into it specifically. So once again, built for modern apps. Controller does everything from personas to actually being able to give actual self-service. It fits into to your ecosystem by being able to give you a REST API that can be that can customize standing northbound traffic to any of your management or visibility systems, and it fits into your CI/CD pipeline tools. And we have the ability not only as controller to actually do be part of automation, but of course there is the fact that we work as your data, as your ADC, and as the actual control plane and data plane in this case. Now let's talk real quick about how we empower. We simplify code. We respond to with intelligent insight. We give you continuous security and align with the speed of the modern apps, and we empower with self-service across all teams. And key innovations, seamless NGINX management. We give you automation-driven configuration APIs, app-centric user interfaces, self-service portals, and modular cross-team workflows. Again, I won't spend long on these, but it's only to an introduction, because we will have another actual speaker later in the series that will go into more detail about control itself. So, get started with F5 and NGINX. 4 ways to use this. Either as migrate to hardware to software ADCs, scale ADCs across multiple clouds, and also deploy API management and modernize apps and build new apps. So, our next topics. On October 7th will be our API management with NGINX. You will be with me once again, and I will take you through API management and a simple demo of our API management capabilities. From there, Ryan Johnson will be your host and presenter for securing containerized apps with we're using NGINX App Protect, excuse me. And then, of course, managing your NGINX instances with NGINX Controller will be handled by Mr. Michael Coleman. And the last of the series that will also culminate into a lab, which is NGINX Ingress Control and Kubernetes discussions, will be handled by Jesse Goodyear, who is also an NGINX engineer and actually supports all of our channel customers.
I'd just like to make mention the lab is 2 hours long. Like I said, the invite was incorrect about that. So it is from 1 to 3 p.m. Just a little different than the webinars, obviously.
Great. There are resources which we can give out to you, which is, of course, a free NGINX cookbook, which will show you a lot of different actual implementations and also different use cases. And now we're going to move into a demo walkthrough. And to give you an idea of what we're going to do, it's going to be a very simple demo, but I would show you the NGINX file structure. We will go through a config verification and show you the different ways to verify the configurations within an NGINX instance. We will show you how hitless reloads work. I'll show you the HP configs and some of the HA capabilities. And last of all, we will show you NGINX Sync, which pretty much is just between the two load balancers, but showing you that we can, which we're showing you that pretty much we can sync all the configurations to keep both of those particular load balancers uniform. With that, this is how the architecture is pretty simple. There is a simple VIP in which I'm using that comes into 2 actual load balancers. We're using Keep Alive D, and it's sending a heartbeat across from load balancer 1 to load balancer 2. There are 4 upstream servers. I've actually done those as Red Hat servers so I had to do the full security. So, which in this particular case is the same way in which most of my federal customers would have to do so. They would use things such as SE Linux and also making sure the correct firewall settings are set. So from here, we will actually get out of this we will move from our demo, and these will move from the presentation, and now I'll move you directly into us going through the demo at this point.
While you're getting that set up, Doug, there was a very good question from one of the attendees. Why use NGINX App Protect over F5, AWAF, ASM? Is F5 always better? Which preferred if both are an option? So this really gets down to where do you want the WAF functionality to sit or exist. So if you wanted the WAF functionality inside a containerized, inside the containerized environment, living inside a pod, inside a Kubernetes or OpenShift, you're looking at NGINX. Big IP does not is kind of a heavier thing. It doesn't go there currently. So now, taking a step back, that's pretty much the easy answer. The kind of more complicated answer is, well, you could also have it outside of that environment if you want to, in a cloud environment, you want very fast spin up instance of WAF. That could be a use case for NGINX. But keep in mind that you can layer on Big IP in front of NGINX. So we're really looking at NGINX versus Big IP. They're both F5. And it may get down to also a feature, an issue of features, right? F5 or Big IP, I should say, WAF or AWAF, what was traditionally called ASM, is a very, very feature-rich WAF. I'll go into more detail of this in a couple of weeks, but just think of App Protect, the NGINX WAF, as a subset of what ASM can do, and it's a very feature-rich for a containerized environment, but for if you're comparing it directly to ASM/AWAF, there's a lot of features that aren't there, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail than that in a couple weeks. I hope that answers your question, Jer. And I appreciate that question.
All right. So take you through a little bit of the actual structure of NGINX instance. So we'll start here in my code, in my actual version of code. So this is the actual base file structure for an NGINX Plus instance. We always start at Etsy. We always go to the NGINX actual directory. And then internal to the NGINX directory, we can either pull up the actual fast CGI or the different parameters that would go into building a web server. There's also the NGINX conf file, which is the default file. That is the central file, which is used when the instance first starts. And then there's the confd file directory. Confd directory is where we keep individual configuration files. In this particular case, the ones we're going to go through, we're going to have an upstream conf, which will show you the load balancer infrastructure. The status stub configuration for, as you can see off, I have a dashboard that's running. That is all part of the dashboard and the health checks. And also we have a status API that is part of the same dashboard. And I've did a little bit of a custom actual health checks that's there also. As we move through the actual, as we move through the actual file structure, there's the etsy.ssl, which of course is where I'm keeping the actual self-signed cert for HTTPS that I'm using here. And also NGINX instance is there as well, which we'll talk about that as part of the OS. And there's my keep alive D files, which is also part of host OS, which is what we're using as far as doing keep alive D is no different than using VRRP, and it's pretty much based on the same standard. But it's done at the host level, and it's not really done at our instance level. All right, from there, we'll go to and show you what an NGINX, a NGINX conf file looks like. And the NGINX conf file, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think some people are having a little bit of a hard time
seeing it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
CLI and the configuration file.
Okay, let me see if I can. Is there a quick way to change the resolution?
Yeah, that made it a little bit smaller actually.
Oh, it needs to be smaller?
No, it needs to be bigger.
Right.
The easy way here might be to just expand the font size or something like that on the CLI and in the config file.
Okay.
It's a common problem on Zoom with CLIs to whether you see or how well you can see the CLIs, and those a little bit small.
Does that get better now that I've zoomed in?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
better for me.
All right. How about for hopefully everyone else is a little bit better for you. I apologize for that.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So with that, this is the NGINX conf file. This is the basic cover. This is the basic file in which brings up an NGINX instance. In it, we're broken up into different contexts. First is the actual user and workloads and process. We also have error logs and actual PID and also the actual process IDs. As we get into the actual context, we have events and also major contexts such as HTTP, where all of the actual web server actual, shall I say, configuration settings are set, except for those that are set for a custom actual web server. Also within it, we can even go, it keeps our, it gives us the access logs and where those log locations are. And there's the include. The include is important because if you notice in this include, it tells us that you go to the conf.d and you load any other actual conf files that are there. So at that particular point, all the conf files in which we've been speaking of or talking about is where they're located within the conf.d actual directory. And then it will give you the capability also of setting up a stream bot. So within NGINX, not only can we do HTTPS load balancing, but we do TCP and UDP load balancing as well. But that is set up as a different actual context within the actual infrastructure, within the actual configuration. So take you to, from there, what it looks like as far as our load balancing configuration. It says pretty simple. You'll see that from here that I'm actually set at 192.168, and it corresponds to the actual dashboard, the 4 actual servers in which we're load balancing as far as our upstreams. And from there, within the context, we set a server directive. That server directive is giving all the necessary information that is telling you exactly how we handle incoming connections. We know there are all 443 in this particular case, so we're doing all SSL termination. And I can even set specific actual server names so that the NGINX instance only responds to this particular name. Also, there's the actual where the actual server certificates are located. And last of all, there is this piece. This is for the health checks and proxy. So in the location, it is saying that I'm going to proxy for everything within this upstream actual set of servers. And I want to have a health check to check those servers as well. Now, I will take you to showing you what it looks like for our actual, for our HA setup. So within the HA setup, as I told you, keep alive D is based on is the derivative of VRRP. With that, all of the configurations are pretty much, if you've worked with VRRP in the past, is pretty much straightforward as to how it works. We, in the instance, can set up the first actual virtual instance, and we set the priority. The difference, when you're setting priorities within Keep Alive D, the differences being showing you from load balancer 1 to load balancer 2 is the priority. The higher priority means that this would be a revertive action. This is a revertive setup, meaning that if I do a failover to actual load balancer 2, because priority is still higher on load balancer 1, when it comes back up, it will take back over. From there, there's just the simple actual unicast setup. There is the actual primary actual IP address. It's this peer address, which is the second load balancer, and then of course the virtual IP in which we're coming in, which in this case is a 1.240 address. Once again, very simple actual setups, very easy to get our actual instances deployed. Then also, in order to set up to give you status and also to show you also health checks, I've set up an actual status API. The status API configuration gives a location of everything, including the index HTML, what errors in which we were actually that would be deployed, or at least actually responded to, and also the location and how we write as far as the overall API. And last of all, the location of the dashboard so we bring things up. Pretty much this is the setup. So from here, I'll show you a few things in which we'll just go through just a few basic commands. So first command we'll go through will be a sudo, excuse me. Always helps me when I use my trusty cheat sheet. So first, I want to show you how we actually check a config. So within actually NGINX, once you're brought up an instance, we can do a sudo NGINX dash small t. And what that will do is that it will show you that your actual config is correct. So in this particular case, it comes back with a response that says that configuration files, that's the nginx.conf, syntax is okay. And then also it checked the actual, that the test successful. However, that's just a simple test when most folks really first bring up their instance. In order to see more detailed verbose information, you change the actual small t to an actual capital T. From there, what I will be able to grab and what you will be able to see within the actual NGINX instance is everything including its config files from what we just showed you, which is the nginx actual.conf file. It will go through the actual proxy and load balancing configurations. It'll go through all the necessary MIME types that have actually been loaded as well. And from there, we'll get into the actual configurations of the load balancers. So one simple actual command will pull all the necessary configuration information up for you to see. Now let's do something that to show you how hitless reloads work. So in this particular case, what I decided to do is to go to, we're going to do a sudo nano gutsy NGINX. We're going to do conf D, and I'm going to go to lb.conf. And to show you how hitless works for us, I will then from here, excuse me. I'm going to add an additional server, although I know that server is not there. And Control X. Now, what's going to be happening now that I've actually added this additional server is that I'm going to reload the actual NGINX instance. And what you'll notice that from the dashboard standpoint, oops.
That was one of my questions, if it errors out, what happens, and if you want random minus t, so it's actually kind of good to see that.
Right. So what it's saying is that it sees that an index that config is emergency unexpected. What it's telling me is that I can't add that particular actual information because of the fact when it went out to check, there is no server on the back end for this. So it keeps you from actually doing things like I want to do, which is to actually make a mistake in that particular manner. So in that particular case, and it sees this particular error. So at this particular error, what it's saying is I never actually told this that particular config was wrong. So I have to add, and let's try this one more time. Right. So now it actually reloaded. If you notice that looking at the dashboard, that I actually now have the additional load balancer that it is actually set to actually look for the 99, but with the health check set up, it went out to actually talk to that particular server, and it's not there. But in no way during the reload did it take any time, or did it actually reconfigure anything else. So it was hitless. All right. So from there, I want to take you through we talked about actual HA configurations. So now I want to show you what the HA configuration looks like. Here, I want to actually show you a really quick demo of that. So simple as it is, we do a state, we do let you know that shows exactly which one is master, which is of course the actual LB1. And then of course, LB2 is in backup state. What we're going to do now is that, as you can still watch from the actual dashboard, I'm going to bring down LB1 by pretty much just shutting off our keep alive D.
I think you're messing the S.
Did I?
Yeah.
Apologize.
Yeah, the words.
Yeah, Udo doesn't get it. Okay. So, as you see, now that we moved over to the new, when we moved over to LB2, there's two things you should notice about the dashboard. Because I've never synced with LB2, it has no idea that there was an additional actual server that was added. So when it takes over, it automatically, that's not part of its config right now. So what you're seeing is that hitless still that we were able to do to keep alive D actual changeover. But remember, I also told you that this is revertive, right? Because I said that LB1 would always be higher priority than LB2. So to show you that, but to make sure that you know that I really did do the changeover, you see that now where he's sitting as master. So now we'll go back and I will restart keep alive D. This time, hopefully saying sudo instead of udo. And, yeah. And now we've actually moved back to load balancer 1. And as you can tell that we're on load balancer 1 because I have that error that is sitting there. So we have the capability of being able to actually serve you as an HA-based load balancer with proxy capabilities as well. All right, so from there, we want to sync. So the last portion of this, and taking you in, so I only got 5 minutes, is to show you really quickly sync. So in this particular case, since I want to do one simple thing. First, I want to go to C. I want to change directories, and I want to add NGINX.conf D. What did I say wrong? Oops, it would be nice to spell Etsy correctly. Now you guys all see why I keep a cheat sheet, right? All right, so with that, the LA, and our file structure is set up right now to where I have lb.conf, right? I've decided that I want to change that. I want to pretty much change that to, I want to do a move, and I want to do lb.conf, and I want to change that to upstream _ load balancer.conf. So, and what you didn't like about me now? That would make sense because I did not say sudo. All right, so now I've changed the actual file names. And what we'll do now is to actually issue a NGINX sync command. So with that, NGINX sync looks at the current actual configuration on the actual on the primary load balancer, does a backup, checks, and actually makes the changes in the secondary load balancer. So from here, should be able to do the same thing, right? Just do a cd / /etc/NGINX. And as you notice, I've updated the files. Also, let's do one other thing. Since before, remember that the secondary load balancer did not have that entry in which we're seeing. We can go back real quick and just do a quick keep alive. Just do a change and keep alive D again. So stop it. And as you notice, even the config, because I'm still getting an error over there. So with that, I'm taking you up on the top of the hour. That is pretty much all that I had to show you as far as the overall configurations and also the different smart, I would say, light capabilities of NGINX Plus. From here, I would say the demo has been completed, and we'll open things for a Q&A session.
Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, you can submit through chat or Q&A. It doesn't really matter either way. We'll stick on for a minute or two here and see if we have some more questions.
Sure. And thank you everyone for bearing with me and sometimes with my really bad syntax spelling. But I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, no big deal. One question that might be coming up, and maybe we'll address this in future webinars, but Doug, what about API, manipulating the configuration via an API?
Yes, well, in the case, what we were about to say is that as an API gateway, yes, you can manipulate a configuration even with API, and you can reconfigure APIs in that particular manner as well.
Well, it looks like we're here at 2 o'clock. We appreciate everyone's time. Thanks again, Doug, for going over this today. If anyone, looks like we have one other question here. NGINX serves as the web layer at the same time as load balancing, correct?
Yes, it can. Be sure when you think about us as a web server, we would have the ability to be built as virtual web servers, and then the same instance can act as a load balancer for those virtual web servers as well. Yes, we can be built as both.
Yeah. So I'd say it's probably less common that way, but it's, it does occur, right, Doug?
Exactly. Well, what I would tell you is that we actually do that as a lot of times to do our demos, right? Where we'll set up, let's say in a container environment where we'll do a single instance and we'll set that single instance up to be, say, 8 different actual virtual web servers. On the front end, and then the same instance will act as a load balancer and proxy to those 8 or 10 actual virtual web servers. So in certain cases, once again, if this was a lightweight deployed application, that may be one of the use cases that you can use this for.
Yeah, another question came in, nodes or whatever is in Cube, and I think you're referring to, can we load balance or serve up anything that's inside of Kubernetes? The answer would be yes.
Yes, you can. We work as a Kubernetes ingress controller, but as well, you can have us within the actual within the cluster or within the pod, and we could work as a load balancer within that pod as well. Whereas what ingress controller is doing is load balancing and also controlling traffic in between the different actual pods. So yes, you can use this in both ways.
What other question? Web is an NGINX controller and kube nodes are Java typically?
That is a very good question. I have one other gentleman that's on, which is Jesse Goodyear.
I missed the question. Can you repeat it?
So the question is, web is NGINX controller and Kubernetes nodes are Java typically? That's a question.
Kubernetes nodes are, so a node is just a Linux instance or VM running containers.
Right. It's according, it could be a host. If you're talking about nodes like in host nodes in a cluster, it's pretty much, you're looking at it either as a virtual or a physical server at that point as a node in that environment. But as far as running Java, it could run Java as a runtime application. But as far as what is designation as a node, is still an operating. It's pretty much either the virtual server or physical server.
Yeah, it's kind of a IP address and port within side of Kubernetes. You can think of that as some kind of service.
Right.
Is a good way of thinking about it. I
Yeah,
think a lot of us are coming from the traditional network, and I think all of us kind of think of it that way. And if I were to, that'd be the way I think of it.
That's a decent analogy.
Okay. There's additional detail here. Our environment has web front end and Java on the back end. I'm imagining that NGINX is serving as a web tier and load balancer, and Java application is on the pods front end. So I mean, if you're looking at what you could use NGINX for in that type of environment, NGINX could be load balancing the front end web hosts. It could be the web server for that application platform, whatever language the application is written in is possible. And it could be proxying TCP traffic to the backend Java application if it's HTTP, whatever. NGINX is a TCP or UDP proxy. If it's HTTP, HTTPS, obviously it adds more layer 7 functionality, but they get a lot of flexibility.
So pretty much we should be able to customize or fit into this particular implementation. And we're glad you see it. We are pretty flexible actual instance. So it gives you the capability of using, I would say, one configuration type and one way of configuring, but at the same time giving you multiple actual uses for this particular tool. I think that's one of the strongest points about it, as well as when you're looking at it from an agency standpoint. One of the biggest issues I've seen in my experience was the training and the understanding of all the tools. Being able to pretty much to collapse that into a single tool, and a lot of people can have that capability, understanding it, it takes you a long way. It takes you a long way as far as being able to accelerate your ability to actually implement your different infrastructures, as well as it takes you a long way as far as being able to have the right setups for different configurations, because everyone will understand it.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend that you, if you want to get more into kind of Kubernetes and how NGINX works in inside environment, attend the lab on October 28th. It's a free lab, just requires web access, and we'll be there to kind of help you and guide you along.
And once again, Jesse Goodyear will be the actual host and the presenter for that particular actual session as well.
Yep, look forward to that one.
And please don't miss out on number 3, which will be NAP. I think you guys will find that to be a very good session. Ryan is not just a beautiful face. He's really good at presenter and engineering. And what I love most, they'll be able to give you a really good comparison between what F5 ASM and also what you gain as far as the complement of having actual NAP being involved or using NAP within your applications. So from there, thank you, everyone. If there are no other questions, I guess we say we're done for today.